Harriet Jacobs, an author, a former enslaved woman, and now one of the classic authors of our time. She gave us the story of a person who was previously enslaved, not just on a plantation, but one who was hiding for 7 years in an attic. She gave us her own story, her own narrative. And now we have the opportunity to be inspired by her and to also keep her story alive. Let me walk back in time with you. Harriet Jacobs was a woman who knew the fate of similar women in her time, a Black woman who was enslaved by her then plantation owner, but she also fought back. She fought back from the trauma, and she fought back from the chains that were holding her down. She hid physically in a space that was no bigger than 9 feet by 7 feet. She did that for 7 years. Then she escaped to the north. There she found her freedom and later her legal freedom. But I want you to remember also that it isn't just about her being enslaved, but also about making sure that her story made it to the abolitionist movement. At that time, people didn't know what we know now. People didn't know that she was being traumatized, both physically and psychologically. People didn't understand the violence that was her everyday life. She wrote this story down and she worked to get it published. Not for 1 year, not for 2 years. It took her 4 years to receive that validation and have her story published and shared widely throughout the country. The Incidents of a Slave Girl is now one of the canonical texts that is shared in universities today, shared in classrooms, shared everywhere. But previously, when she was alive, she had to fight to tell her story. It is so important that we acknowledge and remember and celebrate the lives of women who do not have our freedom today, and that we remember not just the chains and the bondage, but that we remember how they freed themselves. And selling her manuscript, having Incidents of a Slave Girl be published so widely and even globally, was a success and was a win and was a huge step forward for the abolitionist movement. She also started a school, the Jacobs School, with her daughter. This school was dedicated to educating men and women who were formerly enslaved and now had their freedom. And were seeking their freedom, expanding their freedom through education and through their identity, celebrating their identity of now free, legally freed peoples. I invite you to share Harriet Jacobs' story. I invite you to share her legacy and her life with a colleague, with a friend, with a neighbor. Join me in sharing not just about her bondage, but also about her freedom, about her legacy through words, about the work that she did to sell her manuscript, and how today she is living through one of the canonical texts of her time.